Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today. We are 24 hours away. Yes, 24 hours away from Slammiversary, Impact Wrestling's biggest show of the year. And last night was the go-home episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, heading into Slammiversary on Saturday. And we've got some hints. On these former WWE stars that could be set to return to Impact, debut of Impact, however you want to look at it. We know that some of the released WWE stars that were released back in April are going to be showing up at Slammiversary tomorrow. We just don't know who. Impact Wrestling have been teasing this for ever since they were released back in April. They have been teasing that names are going to come in, and during last night's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore further teased some names, dropped some less, not so subtle hints, shall we say, of names that could be coming in on Saturday nights for Impact Wrestling, specifically in the Knockouts division. Now, if you followed this channel, you would know that that's not much of a surprise to you because we spoke about it here. It was a report by Fightful made, I want to say about a month ago, maybe longer than that Impact Wrestling did have at least two big surprises lined up for Slammiversary. And that report also stated that Impact Wrestling was really going to be putting an emphasis on the Knockouts division. It was going to be completely reinvigorated over the course of the next couple of months, starting off with Slammiversary. And that's what we're seeing with these hints, specifically the ones Scott D'Amore did last night on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. So you can see it on the screen there. Scott D'Amore hinted that a couple of names could be coming in on Saturday night. So last night on Impact Wrestling on Access TV, several more hints were dropped on which stars could be returning or debuting at Slammiversary on Saturday. Now, during one of the segments last night, Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo, who was set to defend her championship against a mystery opponent, found out that she won't even find out who her opponent will be until Saturday night at the pay-per-view. And Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore sat down to sign Purrazzo's side of the contract heading into Slammiversary on Saturday. Now, just before she signed the contract, Scott D'Amore had some interesting comments for the Virtuosa and Knockouts champion. He said, quote, "I know sometimes things around here get a little bit of a hot mess," hint, "but Slammiversary is truly going to be iconic," hint. "We're in Nashville here, might be a little hardcore country." So three big hints. Three big hints there. Now, I am going to be doing Slammiversary predictions, so I don't want to get too much into Slammiversary predictions because that's a separate video. But if you're missing some of the hints that Scott D'Amore is going on about there, or you're not familiar with what Scott D'Amore is trying to say during that one, the first part of the statement, he talks about a hot mess. Now, the hot mess is referring to the hot mess Laurel Van Ness, also known as Chelsea Green in WWE, of course, was released by WWE earlier this year. Laurel Van Ness spent 2 years in Impact Wrestling from 2016 to 2018. She's a former Knockouts champion. Her reign lasted 65 days before dropping it to Ali, aka The Bunny, in AEW. Green was one of the several names who unfortunately was let go by WWE back in April after WrestleMania as part of budget cuts, which means her non-compete clause has only just expired in the last few days. Now, Chelsea Green, of course, made an appearance for Ring of Honor last weekend at the Best in the World pay-per-view, where she is going to be one of the participants scheduled to compete in the Women's World Championship tournament. She's also going to be doing some color commentary for that tournament as well. So people have been saying, does that mean she's not going to come into Impact? The answer there is no. She is, I think, still going to come into Impact. She hasn't signed a contract with Ring of Honor as of yet. And even if she did, I think she would probably work it into her deal that she could probably do appearances with both promotions. We did the video yesterday saying that Impact Wrestling and ROH are on good terms right now. Impact Wrestling wants to work with all of these companies. Impact Wrestling wants to work with Ring of Honor. They want to work with MLW. They want to work with the NWA. They're working with AEW. They're working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think they've realized at this point, not just because of the pandemic, but they've realized how beneficial it is for them to have these working relationships with all of these other promotions. So just because Chelsea Green is part of this Women's World Championship tournament for Ring of Honor, just because she's a participant, just because she's a commentator, does not mean she isn't going to show up at Slammiversary on Saturday in Nashville. Personally, and again, I don't want to get too much into it because it's a separate video, Personally, I don't think it is Chelsea Green anymore. The reason why I don't think it's Chelsea Green is because what we're going to talk about after this story, because another match was announced for Slammiversary last night. We'll touch on that in a second. So I don't think it is going to be Slammiversary, but that's what that first hint was by Scott D'Amore last night. Now, the second phrase was iconic. Now, that's pretty on the nose, isn't it? Because, of course, that iconic phrase belongs to the Iconics. Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay, formerly known as Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, collectively known as the Iconics in WWE. They've trademarked the name The Inspiration going forward. So whatever company they sign with, whether it's Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NWA, MLW, AEW, wherever, they're going to probably be known as The Inspiration. Now, just like Chelsea Green, of course, Lee and McKay were released by the WWE back in April and are now finally free from their 90-day non-compete clauses. In fact, they both did separate tweets only a couple of days ago, essentially bidding farewell to their WWE characters of Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. They basically said, "It was nice to know you. You helped me out a lot during my career. You were my muse, if you will, in WWE, but it's over." And they were basically saying, as of today, my 90-day non-compete clause is up. I've said over and over again that I do think the Iconics are going to come into Impact. I think there might be some interest from AEW. I'm not too sure. I think there might have been conversations being held. Of course, the Shawn Spears connections there with AEW too. I've always said, though, that I think they end up in Impact purely because you've got the Knockouts Tag Team division, which you just don't have in other places. And I think they were former women's tag team champions in WWE. Not that that means anything. No disrespect to the former champions, especially not the likes of, say, Bayley and Sasha Banks or Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, because I thought they were great tag teams. The Kabuki Warriors as well, Asuka and Kairi Sane, I thought were great. At this point, that division's a joke. And not that it doesn't mean anything, but I think both wrestlers there have a bit of a chip on their shoulder in the sense that they'll be looking at this saying, look, we could have been a really special women's tag team. We could have been the standard bearer of that division. We could have driven that division forward. And WWE made a mistake. We're going to prove it. So many of the names that came into Impact Wrestling last year, they came in with a chip on their shoulders. And it paid off. People like Eric Young, he was one of the hottest heels in the business last year. And I know people say, hottest heels, but he was doing some of the best work of his career. That Rich Swann Eric Young feud last year was money. It was absolute money. And that was a guy that had no momentum coming into Impact Wrestling after his WWE run. It was terrible. So I think they've got a chip on their shoulder. I think that the environment's perfect for them. I think that they'll have a lot of creative freedom to do what they want. I think obviously they've got the Knockouts Tag Team division. Women's wrestling's taken very seriously in Impact Wrestling. So I've said time and time again, I think they do come into Impact Wrestling. Now, they've mentioned recently as well, because of course they were split up in WWE, not because they wanted to be split up, but they were split up for whatever reason by the creative brain trust that works in WWE. They were split up on Monday Night Raw. At the time, it was rumored that Vince McMahon had big plans for Peyton Royce, not so much for Billie Kay. Billie Kay was drafted to SmackDown. Ironically, it was actually Billie Kay that had the most success when they were single stars, because Billie Kay got over as a comedic actor on SmackDown. And personally, I think if live fans were there throughout all of this, Billie Kay would still be there because she would be over. She was very popular on social media. She'd have been very popular with a live crowd. And it's a shame. It's a shame for that matter. But look, everything happens for a reason. And Peyton Royce did nothing. The crazy, just mind-blowing thing about all of that, one, it wasn't promoted. It was just a random episode of Raw. Loser gets split up, and the Iconics got split up. And you kind of could justify it by saying, well, if Vince McMahon does have plans, I guess, for Peyton Royce, then maybe we can go in that direction. Maybe that's fine. But it wasn't the case, because what was the big plan for Peyton Royce? Put her in another tag team with someone she had zero chemistry with in Lacey Evans. It was just bizarre, absolutely bizarre. And even in the storyline, Peyton Royce was an unwilling participant in that tag team, but I'm sure she was in real life as well. So obviously once they were both released, I think there was a bit of discussion, are they going to still be single stars? Are they going to go in their own directions? Is Billie Kay going to go to Impact, and is Peyton Royce going to go to AEW or whatever? That isn't the case. They've mentioned that they want to remain as a tag team going forward. They did a recent interview with Renee Paquette on our Oral Sessions podcast. They mentioned they would like to compete in Impact, but they did mention other promotions as well, such as AEW, etc. If given the opportunity, I think the Iconics are coming into Impact. I do. I don't think that either one of the Iconics is going to be Deonna Purrazzo's opponent at Slammiversary, though. I mean, they could come in and do a whole triple threat kind of deal. I just don't think that makes a ton of sense to me. I think that they will show up on Saturday. I really do. I just think it'll probably be after Fire and Flavor's match, and I think they're going to retain the tag team titles as well. So I think they retain, and then the inspiration come in. So I don't think they're going to be Deonna Purrazzo's opponent. Now, the final part of the hint that Scott D'Amore did was Hardcore Country, which of course is a reference to Mickie James. Mickie James's single, her first country single, was Hardcore Country. It was on her 2013 album. It was actually Mickie James's entrance theme in Impact Wrestling while she was there. She's got, is it 3-4 Knockouts Championship reigns under her belt in Impact Wrestling. She was there from 2010 to 2015. Obviously, even before that, she was there in Impact Wrestling, or TNA, in the Foundation years, back when it was NWA TNA. So she's got a lot of history, primarily when she was there after her first WWE run, multiple-time Knockouts champion. Look, I've said a few times that they've teased this. This isn't the first time they've teased Mickie James coming back to Impact Wrestling, of course. They did the tease with her with Fire and Flavor a couple of weeks ago, where they had the trash bag. They were making reference to Trash Bag Gate, which of course was when Mickie James was let go from WWE. She got her belongings sent over in a trash bag with her name on it. They referenced that, so that was a hint. Of course, Mickie James is busy with the NWA right now. She's going to be the executive producer of the NWA All-Women's Empower pay-per-view. She's going to be wrestling the following night for the NWA at the 73rd anniversary pay-per-view event as well. But as far as we're aware, she's not exclusive. She's not exclusive to the NWA. Going back to the video we did yesterday, there does seem to have been discussions between the NWA and Impact Wrestling about some form of a working relationship. Dialogue has been open ever since the deal to have Kylie Ray be released by Impact and signed with the NWA was brokered. There does seem to be some kind of discussion. The relationship is pretty good right now, which is surprising considering Billy Corgan's history with Impact Wrestling, more so with Dixie Carter, it must be said, but he's still got some heat with Impact because of his perception of them stealing talent, etc. So a lot of people said, I'm not sure because of her affiliation with NWA that she'll come in. But Impact Wrestling continued to hint at it. They did the Trash Bag Gate. They did a Before the Impact special. Or no, it wasn't Before the Impact. It was an Impact in 60 special about her best matches, Mickie James of Impact Wrestling. So they continued to hint that. And Deonna Purrazzo has hinted at it on social media. Mickie James has hinted at it at social media. And I think, look, from an NWA point of view, it's in their best interest that Mickie James does compete at Slammiversary. The reason why isn't for herself. I think if Mickie James comes in, I think she loses. I think she puts Deonna Purrazzo over. You could also see a situation, of course, where Mickie James comes in, wins the Knockouts Championship. Then your main event of the Empower pay-per-view is Deonna Purrazzo versus Mickie James for the Knockouts Championship, and Deonna Purrazzo wins the title back. That's a possibility as well. But it's in the NWA's best interest that Mickie James starts to spark this working relationship between the NWA and Impact, because they're going to need a lot of female talent for that pay-per-view. Now, they're not just going to obviously just need Impact. There's plenty of female talent around. The NWA do have working relationships with AEW, so I think they'll leverage those talents there. But my point being, as to why I think that it'll be good for Mickie James to work this relationship with Impact Wrestling, is because there's a lot of talent, and the Impact Knockouts division is one of the best women's divisions in the world. For me, it rivals WWE. I think it's better than the AEW women's division as well. And if Mickie James can get an in there and they can build a relationship, then obviously they're going to want Deonna Purrazzo, Su Yung, Jordynne Grace, Rachel Ellering, Fire and Flavor, maybe the Iconics, Chelsea Green. They're going to want all of those names working the NWA Empower pay-per-view. So I think Mickie James, out of those names that he hinted, I think is the most likely name. It might not be. It might not be Mickie James. It might not be any of those names. Some could argue that because Scott D'Amore referenced those names, it might not be any. They won't want to keep you completely in the dark and go in a completely different direction. That's a possibility as well. There is a possibility it could still be Su Yung. They did a Su Yung segment where Susan revealed she knew about Su Yung all the time, and obviously Kimberly and Su Yung have been associated with Deonna Purrazzo for nearly a year now, so why wouldn't it be Su Yung? I wouldn't want it to be. I think it would be a bit of a letdown, to be honest. Out of those names, I think Mickie James is the most likely name, but who knows? Who knows? It could be someone else. It could be someone else. Who knows? I think that it will be Mickie James, though. I think that will be the beginning of a possible working relationship with Impact Wrestling and the NWA as we head into that Empower pay-per-view. But who knows? Who knows? It's exciting. We're only 24 hours away. Now, another match that was announced last night, and this is what I mentioned about Chelsea Green, was a mixed tag team match for Slammiversary tomorrow night. It was announced that Brian Myers and Tenille Dashwood will join forces to face Matt Cardona and a partner of his choosing in a tag team match at Slammiversary tomorrow night. Now, this match came to be after Brian Myers and Cardona got into it during last night's show, where Brian Myers officially called Jake Something a professional after Something won their scheduled match and demanded he be called that if he won the match, which he did. Just as Myers poked fun at Something, who brought Cardona to ringside of him, Myers and his new protege, Sam Beal, laid a beatdown on them, which left an opening for Tenille Dashwood to sneak in the ring and give a low blow to Matt Cardona. Myers then spoke to Dashwood, who was once, of course, romantically involved with Matt Cardona earlier in the show, and asked for assistance ahead of his in-ring segment. So following the encounter, Scott D'Amore informed Cardona backstage he'd be allowed to settle this score on Saturday with a partner of his choosing. Now, he did reference, as I mentioned earlier on the show, about a hot mess, referring to Laurel Van Ness, Chelsea Green, who, of course, is Cardona's real-life fiance. So it's an interesting one. Now, first of all, Matt Cardona was attacked by Myers. He actually had a fractured orbital bone injury, which kept him on the shelf for 12 weeks. Matt Cardona's been cleared, so that's not an issue. A lot of people, I think myself included, are putting two and two together here, saying, well, it's highly likely that the mystery female partner would be Matt Cardona's real-life female partner in Chelsea Green. That makes a lot of sense, because of Chelsea Green's, of course, history of Impact Wrestling as well, and her partnership in real life with Matt Cardona, a situation where Brian Myers is teaming up with Matt Cardona's ex-girlfriend, and they're going to face off against Cardona and his real-life fiance. I mean, that's box office, that's money, right? That's true. Maybe, again, going back to the thing I mentioned before with Scott D'Amore, maybe it's a situation where it feels really too obvious, and sometimes that's not a problem. But it does feel very obvious. I still think it'll probably be Chelsea Green, though. The only thing I will say about that is that Chelsea Green is currently nursing a broken arm. She took to Twitter after this segment, or as the segment was airing last night, and she tweeted out, quote, "She is so lucky I've got one arm." Now, you could argue there she is trying to throw people off the scent. I think she might be doing that. I just, if it's anyone else, I don't get it. I don't see why it would be anyone else. I can't think of, again, I can understand maybe them trying to do a bit of a swerve, or them trying to throw us off the scent, or maybe them trying to do something else, but that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if this was logical in real life, of course he would turn to his real life fiance. He's having issues with an ex of his. Surely he would turn to his current partner. We all know Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona are, engaged to be married. They're very, open about it on social media. I've been saying for a while that I think Matt Cardona needs a drastic character change in Impact Wrestling anyway. I would like to see more of the character he's doing in GCW and have that be transferred over to Impact, because frankly, ever since he was released by WWE last year, we've just seen a continuation of Zack Ryder. Yes, he's changed to his real name, and yes, he's got new entrance music, but he's still Zack Ryder. There's not a lot of difference between Matt Cardona and Zack Ryder. I want to see something different. I want to see Matt Cardona turn heel. I want to see Matt Cardona be a hot mess with Laurel Van Ness, right? Laurel Van Ness was crazy in Impact Wrestling. Why not just embrace it? Why not embrace it and be like, you think she's crazy? Wait till you see me and my craziness, and then have Matt Cardona do something different. Take a gamble, evolve your character, do something different, turn heel. That's why the GCW stuff with Nick Gage has been so great, because it's so out of character and so different to what Matt Cardona's ever done. He's always been Zack Ryder, even as a heel or a babyface. It's the same character. It's this cocky Long Island guy. I know that's who Matt Cardona is, but maybe do something different. Try something new. And whilst the Chelsea Green elements and coming in and being his partner on Saturday might be quite predictable, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. They can take that predictable nature and then just flip it on its head and be like, yes, we got rid of Tenille Dashwood and Brian Myers, but now we're crazy. We're going to do something completely different. And that would be interesting to me. That would be really interesting to me. So I don't know if they're going to go in that direction. I think it's, logic would state that it's going to be Chelsea Green. Whether it's her or not, time will tell. We'll have to wait till tomorrow night. We are going to be doing a watch-along and a post-show reaction stream. So subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. You'll be notified when we go live tomorrow. Finally, Sami Callihan's been hyping up his match against Kenny Omega on Saturday at Slammiversary. Now, he recently did an interview with TalkSport. Sami Callihan discussed numerous topics, most notably whether he always wanted to face Kenny Omega at Slammiversary and not Moose. Callihan heaped praise on Moose, stating he has incredibly improved his physique, which he has, but he's always had one eye on a Kenny Omega encounter because he thinks he's disrespected the company. He said, quote, 100% Moose is the most opposing dude on the Impact roster. You've seen his body transformation over the past 6 months. He looks like a damn Greek god. But at the end of the day, Kenny Omega came to Impact Wrestling and not only disrespected our locker room, he disrespected the company I love. Everybody wants to look at me like I'm the bad guy, but I've been fighting for Impact Wrestling since I stepped foot in the company. So he's still hyping it up. He's still saying that Kenny Omega's the outsider and all this kind of stuff. He also spoke about a live audience returning. He said, quote, fans are everything. They're just a big part of the show as the wrestlers are in the ring, and the people in the back, they mean everything. Of course, fans return tomorrow for Slammiversary as well. Look, again, I am going to be doing a Slammiversary predictions video anyway, so I won't get into it too much. But if you've seen the videos that I've done here on the channel talking about Slammiversary, talking about Omega versus Callihan, you will know that. Does it feel like a Slammiversary main event to me? No. I'm going to be honest, not really. But look, I'm interested to see what they do tomorrow. It's a no disqualification match, so I think there will be shenanigans. I just don't see Sami Callihan leaving as the Impact World Champion. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before. We'll find out tomorrow together on the watch long and on the post show as well. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.